He didn't even look me in the eye when he fired me, he just tossed the termination letter on my desk and walked out, laughing. 3 years of building that company from scratch, and I was replaced in 30 seconds, by a guy who didn't even know how the coffee machine worked. If only he knew, I wasn't just his employee. I was the silent partner, and I held the keys to everything his father built. If this made your jaw drop, wait till you hear what happens next. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Viral Secrets for more shocking revenge stories that will leave you speechless. My name is Camila. I wasn't born with wealth, connections, or a last name that opened doors. What I did have was grit. I joined Crest Hill Tech when it was just a rented room and a dream, working side by side with Mr. Wilson, the founder, who treated me like a daughter. We built the company brick by brick. I gave him ideas, strategies, and clients that brought in millions, but my name never made it to the front page. When his son Brandon returned from business school, he strutted into the company like he owned the place, which technically, after Mr. Wilson's sudden retirement, he did. But Brandon never worked a day in his life. He was the kind of guy who wore suits worth more than my monthly salary and thought leadership was about shouting louder. On his first day as CEO, he called a company-wide meeting. Everyone was nervous. We thought he'd talk about vision, plans, maybe some reshuffling. Instead, he stood on stage and said, "Some of you built this company for the past 10 years. I'm here to upgrade it, and that means getting rid of the dead weight." Dead weight. That's what he called me. Within minutes, I was escorted out. No farewell, no appreciation, just a cardboard box and a silent elevator ride. But what Brandon didn't know was that Mr. Wilson and I had a private agreement. One that gave me silent equity, 35% ownership. On paper, I was just the former operations head. But in reality, I still had access to the core software, the server credentials, and every top-tier client relationship. I didn't fight back that day. I smiled. Because Brandon had just declared war, and I was holding the detonator. Brandon thought he won. He posted a smug photo on LinkedIn, out with the old, in with the bold. Big changes coming to Crest Hill Tech. The comments were filled with praise from clueless followers, and silence from the people who actually knew what I did there. I spent the first week quietly watching. Not a single client called me. Not one coworker reached out. And that hurt more than getting fired. I gave these people everything, loyalty, late nights, even weekends. But it was like I'd been erased overnight. That's when I stopped crying, and started planning. You see, months before Brandon took over, Mr. Wilson had quietly stepped back. He gave me access to every high-value client relationship, and in a rare moment of honesty, told me, "If Brandon ever screws this up, I trust you to keep things from falling apart." I didn't expect to use that power. But now? I was ready. I called 3 of our biggest enterprise clients, ones I'd personally secured over the years, and told them the truth. Crest Hill had changed. The man in charge didn't know their systems, didn't understand the contracts, and worst of all, didn't care about service. I didn't beg. I simply offered them a smoother alternative, my new startup, which I had secretly been building behind the scenes for the past year. It took 48 hours. 3 multi-million-dollar clients terminated their contracts with Crest Hill and signed with me, Camtech Solutions. Brandon was blindsided. One by one, projects stalled, revenue dropped, and chaos took over the office. I could imagine his face when the finance team showed him the client loss reports. But the best part? I hadn't even used my full power yet, because I still had one card left. The software license. Crest Hill's entire backend ran on a custom-built internal platform, one I had co-created under my name. And in the fine print of that contract, it said, any major structural change in leadership requires renewed licensing approval from the original architect. Brandon had never read it. He thought I was just a discarded employee. He didn't know I was the architect of his downfall. What happened when the system crashed mid-board meeting? Let's just say, Brandon wasn't smiling anymore. The crash hit during their quarterly board meeting, right when Brandon was boasting about modernizing the infrastructure. Every dashboard froze. Every server went dark. The client portal showed a single line of red text, license expired. Please contact the software architect. Brandon lost it. He stormed out of the boardroom, screaming at the IT team, demanding answers. But there were none. Because the architect, me, had full legal rights to suspend access if the contract terms were violated. And Brandon? he violated every single one the moment he fired me. Meanwhile, I was already 3 steps ahead. Camtech Solutions was booming. The clients I brought in weren't just signing contracts, they were referring me to others. I hired a lean, loyal team. People who believed in the mission. People who remembered who held Crest Hill together all those years. One evening, I got a call I didn't expect. It was Mr. Wilson. I told Brandon not to mess with you, he said, his voice low. He thought this was about ego. But this company was your backbone. And now he's destroyed it. He wasn't wrong. After the crash, more clients fled Crest Hill. Investors pulled out. Employees started resigning. The media picked up the story. CEO's son fires veteran leader, loses company weeks later. Brandon tried to sue me. His lawyers sent aggressive emails, accusing me of sabotage. But when they reviewed the paperwork Mr. Wilson and I had signed, especially the clauses giving me partial ownership and control over the software, their case evaporated. Legally, I hadn't broken a single rule, but morally, I had burned him down with the very bricks I helped him stand on. Weeks later, I walked into the same corporate building, not as an employee, but as the new tenant. Crest Hill had defaulted on its lease. And I had bought the floor. Every corner, every wall that once reminded me of betrayal, was now mine. As I walked past the empty reception desk, a young security guard stopped me. "Excuse me, miss, are you with the new company taking over this space?" I smiled. "No. I am the new company." But the story wasn't over yet. Because something unexpected showed up in my inbox the next morning. A job application, from Brandon. The subject line read, employment opportunity, willing to start anywhere. I stared at it for a full minute. It wasn't a prank. It was Brandon, the same guy who once called me dead weight in front of the entire company. Now begging for a chance. His message was short, unusually humble. "Camila, I know I made mistakes. I misjudged a lot of things, especially you. I'm willing to take any position you see fit. Even if it's just entry level. I need to work. Please consider me." For a second, I almost felt bad for him. Almost. But then I remembered how he humiliated me. How he turned an entire company against me overnight. How I sat in my car with a box of my belongings, tears streaming down my face while he toasted champagne upstairs. So, I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I called an emergency all-hands meeting at Camtech. When my team gathered, I brought up Brandon's email on the screen. Gasps rippled across the room. I could see their disbelief and curiosity. Then I said, "Should I bring him in for an interview?" Everyone went quiet. One guy at the back, Daniel, my lead engineer, muttered, "Only if we let him clean the floors he once walked over us on." We all laughed. But I didn't laugh for long. Because my revenge wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be strategic. 2 days later, Brandon showed up for his interview. He looked nothing like the arrogant CEO I once knew. His designer suits were replaced with a wrinkled shirt. His voice? Meek. Unsteady. "I just need a fresh start," he whispered. I handed him a clipboard. "There's an opening in facilities. Entry-level maintenance. It's a contract position. No benefits. Minimum wage." He blinked. "You're serious?" I smiled. "You said you were willing to start anywhere. This is anywhere." He took the job. For the next month, Brandon, once the golden boy of Crest Hill, scrubbed office windows and took out trash at my company. The same employees he once ignored now walked past him with raised eyebrows. Some pitied him. Others didn't bother to hide their smirks, but I didn't stop there, because the next twist was going to be public, and it was coming on the night of Crest Hill Tech's liquidation auction, where everything Brandon once owned was about to be sold to the highest bidder. The auction hall buzzed with whispers, flashing cameras, and curious eyes. Crest Hill Tech, once valued in the tens of millions, was now nothing more than broken dreams being sold off piece by piece. Office chairs, monitors, framed awards, even the company's golden logo, all up for grabs, and front row, sitting calm and collected in a sleek black suit, was me. Camila. Brandon didn't know I was there at first. He walked in late, trying to avoid attention. But when his eyes locked with mine, his face froze. He looked older, not in age, but in defeat. The confidence was gone. The arrogance had melted into shame. The auctioneer stepped up. "Next item, full rights and trademarks to the Crest Hill Tech name and brand identity." I raised my paddle. 100,000. Brandon's jaw clenched. That name was all he had left. A man in the back raised his hand. 120. I didn't blink. 200. Silence fell. The auctioneer looked around. No other bids, sold. To bidder number 37, Camila Hayes. Brandon's head dropped. That was it. The final piece. The last thing connecting him to the empire he thought he'd lead forever, now belonged to the woman he fired without a second thought. I didn't buy it for vanity. I bought it for closure, because the next morning, I rebranded every single piece of Cresthill's identity under Camtech Solutions. I issued a press release: Camtech acquires Cresthill Tech's assets, poetic justice served by former employee turned CEO. The story went viral. Podcasts, news sites, even business magazines covered it, from Fired to Fortune, how Camila outsmarted her boss's son and took it all back. People cheered. Strangers sent messages of support. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. A week later, Brandon left his janitorial job without a word. He couldn't look me in the eye. And I didn't stop him, because real power isn't about revenge. It's about rising so high that the people who once buried you have to look up, just to see where you landed. And me? I wasn't just back. I owned the ground they once pushed me into. Share this story if you believe karma always finds its way, and remember, silence isn't weakness, sometimes, it's strategy.